The forest holds secrets, ancient and deep. I've spent my life chasing its whispers, drawn by stories of a creature that walks between myth and reality. For years, I searched the dense, misty woods of the Cascade Mountains, following footprints that defied explanation and listening for sounds that echoed from a prehistoric time. I was a skeptic at heart, driven by a need for proof, for a single, undeniable truth. But what I found wasn't just proof. It was something far more profound, something that would unravel everything I thought I knew and leave a permanent mark on my soul. This is the story of my last encounter, the one that changed my life forever. My journey began with dusty books and old maps, tales told by grizzled loggers and wide-eyed campers. They spoke of a giant ape-like being, a silent guardian of the wilderness. I pored over every piece of evidence: blurry photographs, plaster casts of enormous footprints, and grainy films that sparked endless debate. My early expeditions were filled with a mix of excitement and frustration. I'd spend weeks in the backcountry, my pack heavy with cameras and recording gear, only to return with nothing but bug bites and the scent of pine. There were moments of doubt, nights spent shivering in my tent, wondering if I was chasing a ghost, a collective fantasy born from the shadows of the forest. Yet, something always pulled me back. A strange howl cutting through the night, a massive branch snapped impossibly high in a tree, or a set of tracks that seemed to vanish into thin air. These small, tantalizing clues were just enough to keep the flame of my quest alive. I learned to read the forest's language, to recognize the subtle signs of something large and intelligent moving through the landscape. I wasn't just hunting for a monster, I was trying to understand a mystery. Over the years, the near misses became closer encounters. One evening, a rock the size of my fist landed just feet from my campfire, thrown from the darkness beyond the light. There was no sound of a person running away, just an unnerving silence that followed. Another time, I found a series of huge, human-like footprints pressed deep into the mud near a stream, so fresh that water was still seeping into them. My heart pounded in my chest as I followed them, only to have them disappear on a patch of hard, rocky ground as if the creature had simply vanished. I started to feel like I was being watched, observed by an intelligence that was always one step ahead. It wasn't a menacing feeling, but a curious one. It felt less like I was the hunter and more like I was the one being studied. I began leaving small gift samples, a brightly colored marble at the edge of my campsite. Sometimes they would be gone in the morning. Other times I'd find them replaced with something else, a strange, twisted piece of wood or a single pristine bird feather. A silent, cautious dialogue was beginning. Then came the encounter that confirmed everything. I was deep in a remote section of the Cascades, a place where the old-growth trees blotted out the sun. It was late afternoon, and a heavy mist was rolling in, muffling all sound. I was setting up a motion-activated camera when I felt it again, that distinct sensation of being watched. I froze, slowly raising my binoculars, and there he was, standing partially hidden behind a massive Douglas fir about 100 yards away. He was immense, easily over 8 feet tall, covered in thick, dark brown hair that rippled in the slight breeze. His sheer scale was breathtaking. This was no man in a suit. The power in his shoulders, the way his muscles moved beneath his fur, it was all undeniably real, a product of nature. He just stood there, his head slightly tilted, watching me. I lowered my binoculars, my hands trembling. Our eyes met. His were dark, deep-set, and filled not with aggression, but with a profound ancient intelligence. It was a look of weary curiosity, of a being who has seen the world change around him. In that single, silent moment, every doubt I ever had evaporated. Time seemed to stop. It was a moment of pure connection to different worlds colliding in a gaze. I slowly raised my hand, a gesture of peace. He watched the movement then, with a slowness that seemed almost deliberate. He turned and melted back into the dense forest, disappearing as silently as he had appeared. That experience solidified my resolve. I dedicated the next few years to finding him again, not for a photo, not for fame, but for understanding. Our encounters became more frequent, though always from a distance. I learned his patterns, the areas he frequented. I began to feel a strange kinship with this solitary giant. I gave him a name, Kale, an old word meaning mighty warrior, though his nature seemed anything but warlike. He was a guardian, a remnant of a wilder time. I never tried to get too close, respecting the invisible boundary he set. It was a fragile trust, a relationship built on mutual respect and silence. He was a living, breathing part of the forest, and I was just a visitor. I realized that the goal wasn't to capture him on film, but to protect his existence, to ensure he could remain a secret, a myth. The world wasn't ready for him. Our world of concrete and noise would only seek to capture, study, and destroy what it couldn't understand. My mission had changed from discovery to preservation. This brings me to my final encounter, the one I call the farewell. It was a cold autumn day. The leaves were turning, and the air had the sharp bite of impending winter. I had a feeling that this would be my last trip for the season, maybe for a long time. I returned to the spot where I first saw him, a small clearing surrounded by ancient cedars. I sat on a fallen log and just waited, not expecting anything. As dusk settled, painting the sky in shades of purple and orange, he emerged from the trees. This time, he was closer than ever before, maybe 50 feet away. He didn't hide. He stood in the open, and for the first time, he seemed to carry an air of sadness. His massive shoulders were slightly slumped, and his gaze was heavy. He looked old, tired. He took a few steps closer, then stopped. He let out a low, guttural sound, not a roar, but a soft, mournful call that vibrated through the ground. It was a sound filled with loneliness and a deep, aching sorrow. It was a goodbye. In that moment, I understood. He was perhaps the last of his kind, a solitary king in a shrinking kingdom. The sound wasn't for me, but for everything he had lost. Tears streamed down my face. I wasn't afraid. I was heartbroken. I felt his immense loneliness as if it were my own. He held my gaze for what felt like an eternity, a silent communion of two solitary beings. Then, with a final deep sigh that ruffled the leaves at his feet, he turned and walked away, disappearing into the twilight. I knew with a certainty that chilled me to the bone that I would never see him again. I packed up my camp in a daze. The forest felt different, emptier. The mystery was solved, but the magic was gone. Returning to civilization was a shock. The noise, the crowds, the frantic pace of life, it all felt alien. How could I explain what I had seen? Who would believe me? I realized that the proof I had spent my life seeking was worthless. The true discovery was not in a photograph, but in the emotional connection, the shared moment of existence with a creature from another world. My encounter with Kale taught me that some mysteries are not meant to be solved, but to be respected. He wasn't a monster to be hunted, but a sentient being deserving of peace. He changed me. I no longer look at the wilderness as a place to conquer, but as a sacred space, a sanctuary for things we can't yet comprehend. My life's purpose shifted from a frantic search for evidence to a quiet advocacy for the wild, for the preservation of the unknown. That final emotional encounter was his gift to me. It was a farewell that closed a chapter of my life, but opened my eyes to a deeper truth about our world and our place within it. The forest still holds its secrets, but now I'm content to let them be. I carry his memory not as a hunter with a trophy, but as a humble witness to a fleeting, beautiful, and heartbreaking miracle. Thank you for listening to my story. If you've ever felt a connection to the wild, or if you believe there's more to this world than what we can see, hit that like button and subscribe for more journeys into the unknown. What do you think? Share your own experiences or thoughts in the comments below. Until next time, keep looking up.